Lisa had been going over the events of the early morning all day in her mind. Initially, she'd been proud of Rick for parting from Minmei and doing his duty. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized how angry he was and how she'd come across. She'd understood Rick's deep feelings for Minmei and had always maintained that he should follow his heart, even if that meant she herself might lose him to that naive little singing star. And really, she felt embarrassed a bit, admitting to herself that she might have used her position as his superior to order him to go pursue KHYRON out of more than a little jealousy. In any case, the whole thing seemed so melodramatic. It's no wonder she tended to focus on her work more than matters of the heart. Fortunately for her, Claudia was an expert on such things and could see Lisa's heart was weighing heavy. She knew right away what must be causing it, and made herself comfortable as she attempted to guide her friend through these stormy waters.
What could have made me say a thing like that?
So there you are. I thought I might find you sitting in here. Why so glum, chum? Come on, tell me what Rick has done now, Lisa.
Please.
You're not in any mood to talk, huh? Well, honey, sometimes he clears the air. It helps when you get things out in the open.
What makes you think I'm upset?
Just a woman's intuition. I thought you might like to try my prescription for pain. Hot tea can do wonders for open wounds.
Such a gourmet product was really hard to come by in recent days. The fact that Claudia had some, and she was willing to share it with Lisa, spoke volumes of their friendship and her generosity. Claudia sympathizes with Lisa and the pain she feels, reminding her she knows exactly what that's like, and offers Lisa the best advice she has. Not to let too much time go by before telling Rick how she really feels about him. After all, who knows how much time any of them had in their line of work. Lisa knew it should be just that easy, but it's easier said than done. However, she valued Claudia's advice and determined to follow it to the letter, tea and all. Rick, however, was determined not to let her. They'd been out patrolling and searching for KHYRON, who'd disappeared somewhere out into the world. That failure to find him, mixed with his heart in flux over seeing Minmei again and her disappearing as well once more. And he felt that was Lisa's fault. She'd cost him the chance to liberate Minmei from Kyle that morning. And now who knew what danger Minmei was in? When the chief informed Rick that Lisa wanted to see him right away, that really stirred up his temper. He made sure to fill out a very detailed and orderly report for her, unwilling to give her any leeway or excuse to razz him the way she'd always done. It's like she always found ways to bully him or reasons to pull rank.
Oh, by the way, I don't know what your particular problem is, but it really doesn't look too good for you to be hanging around in lingerie shops.
Lecture. Skull 23, what in blazes are you doing?
Huh?
Just where were you at the meeting? Asleep? I'm sick and tired of repeating myself. That kind of flying will give you away to the aliens.
But...
This is no time for acrobatics, you idiot.
But all the other pilots were flying really dangerously, so I thought that...
Shut up, Hunter. You follow your instructions, you hear me?
Okay, I gotcha.
Is that the way to speak to superiors? Look around, wise guy. You're the only one who's flying dangerously.
Roger.
I shouldn't have to remind you that it was your job to protect me, but even when you commandeered that battloid, the enemy made mincemeat of you. I sometimes wonder how you became squadron leader.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, Miss Commander, that fighting that alien was no walk in the park.
It's like she was always pulling him away from Minmei, it seemed. Like that was all some big joke to her. It made Rick wonder what Lisa's deal really was. Sometimes she could be so caring and supportive, but other times she was just so confusing.
Well, look who's here. Hey, why the long face? Did you come to bury Caesar?
Hello, Rick. I came to say that I'm sorry.
What's happened to that old command confidence? This isn't like you at all.
No, Lieutenant Hunter, I don't suppose it is at that. Anyway, I said what I came to say. Now I have to get back to my duties on the bridge. Get well.
Thanks, Lisa. Will you come see me again?
I don't think so, Lieutenant. I'll be too busy.
Huh.
He really did care about Lisa. He even rather liked her, usually. But he could never tell where they stood, what she really wanted. It was hard to say if she was just messing with him in the end. Well, he was sick of it. Sick of her always breathing down his neck, always interfering with his personal life. He was just done with it all. He came into the command center to deliver his report directly to her and give her another special report as well. At that moment, ironically, Lisa was genuinely excited to see Rick, to not only apologize for her own immaturity from before, but to finally tell him how she truly felt about him deep down and stop all of these fits and starts they'd been through and work things out so they could just move forward. Vanessa doesn't miss much, and it was incredibly obvious to her what had Captain Hayes feeling so bubbly. Yet as Rick entered, she could see very clearly that Captain Hunter was not feeling the same way at the moment.
Boy, is she ever hung up on him. Uh-oh, look who's coming.
Oh, hello, Rick.
Here's my complete report, Captain, with my compliments. Will that be all?
Rick,
Captain, I said, is that all?
Rick, what do you mean?
I don't want to take up too much of your time.
What's the matter with you?
What's the matter with me? I just came in from an all-night patrol, and the first thing I hear is to report to you. Don't you think I understand military procedure? Well,
Just give me a chance to explain.
Wow, this was not going well. Here was Lisa trying to build something with Rick, even ready to admit she'd been harsh with him before. But he was setting fire to any chance of it happening. They could have left it there, and Lisa would have been sure never to bother him again if this is what he really thought. She was heartbroken in that moment and wondered if Claudia's words about not waiting were true, except, as it turns out, she'd already let too much time go by. Lisa was already too late. Rick wasn't done, though. He kept laying into her in one of the biggest, jerkiest ways he could have.
and another thing, Captain Hayes, my personal life is just that, personal, do you understand? Whoever I choose to speak with does not concern you.
Okay, dude, chill. You've made your point. But man, Rick was really on one, and he just keeps going.
I understand.
Like Vanessa here, for example. Am I right or not?
I really don't think I'm...
Hey, why don't we grab a bite to eat?
There was a time Vanessa would have been elated to be asked out by Rick Hunter. But, oh man, not like this. Not this way. And certainly not while she knew how much Lisa liked him. She tries to keep some decorum and diffuse the situation for both their sakes. But Rick really was trying to burn the house down this time.
Please, Captain Hunter. As you can see, I'm still on duty.
So what? You can still play hooky, can't you?
If you both excuse me, I've had just about enough of this.
Of course, Rick did this just to prove a point to Lisa, and that point was made. But Vanessa now was incredibly angry at Captain Hunter, and certainly didn't appreciate being used by him as a tool in whatever game Rick had in mind here. Especially when she knew how Lisa really felt about him. And after this horrific display, it was time he knew just how badly he'd messed up and what a jerk he was.
I don't think that was a very nice thing to do.
And why not?
It's obvious, sir. Captain Hayes Hayes just happens to be in love with you. That's why not.
You mean Lisa is in love? And with me? You gotta be kidding. Ha! The only thing she's in love with is her job.
Lisa walked down the hall, trying to outwardly maintain some professionalism, but inside she was fuming. She couldn't believe she was actually going to apologize to him. After this, she'd sooner apologize to KHYRON. There was no way Vanessa wasn't going to go discuss the whole scene with Kim and Sammy.
I just don't understand. What's the problem with her?
Oh, it was just a lover's quarrel, that's all.
It seems so obvious that Captain Hayes is in love with Captain Hunter, but she doesn't have the courage to tell him about it.
That is really ridiculous. Why doesn't he just be a man about it and tell her that he loves her too, huh?
I've always said Vanessa might see and hear everything, but it's Kim who cuts to the chase about it and is definitely the most pragmatic one. And then, of course, there's Sammy's take on it all.
Has it ever occurred to you that perhaps he doesn't share the same feelings on the subject that Captain Hayes does?
If he's got a heart at all, he's got to realize how she feels about him.
Maybe not.
Well, if I felt that way about a man, I'd just come right out and tell him about my feelings.
I know, but you do that to almost every man you meet.
As evening fell, their shifts at their duty stations complete, Lisa found herself still worked up, still restless, but most of all, still confused, still feeling bad about how all of this went with Rick. And she still wanted to make amends all around. I mean, after everything they'd been through, it was the least they could do to still be friends, if nothing else. Outside of his place, though, she hesitated, second-guessing if this wouldn't just make things worse. Maybe she was just setting herself up for more heartbreak. But she's saved from that decision, not to mention the rain, by Claudia once again.
Planning to drink that tea in the rain? Why don't you go up and knock?
Why? He doesn't want to see me.
Not if you've made up his mind for him. Listen, if you're not ready to talk to him right now, why don't you just come over to my place? We'll dry off and talk. Well, while you're thinking about it...
Claudia,
See you soon.
But... Oh dear, now what? Rick, what could I say to you that would make any difference at all? Nothing, I guess.
I've made some nice hot tea. That ought to hit the spot. Here we go.
Claudia, at the risk of sounding like a pushy guest, you wouldn't happen to have anything around a bit stronger, would you?
Huh?
You have any wine around the house?
Wine? You got it.
Well, get it.
Well, okay.
There are certain things you don't notice watching these as a kid that really stand out when you're an adult. In this case, it's the look on Lisa's face as she watches the wine pour into the glass. Her tone as she arrived at Claudia's house and speaks to her friend is jovial and confident initially, but that look on her face as sadness washes over her. She's ready to fill that void tearing into her heart with the vintage that Claudia is pouring. And she doesn't take her time with it either. Claudia seems slightly alarmed by this, and that look Lisa gives her empty glass reflects the emptiness that's beginning to overwhelm her.
So how long does it take for the hurting to stop?
You sound like you're giving up.
When he came in this morning with his report, I really wanted to apologize, but then before I could, he started chewing me out.
Well, what did he say?
It's kind of sweet to watch Claudia assess her friend's condition and decide that more wine is prescribed for her at the moment, allowing it to do its work as Lisa unloads the feelings she's suffering. As heart-wrenching as it is to see Lisa like this, it's a very touching moment as these two women come together in support and commiseration. Lisa continues to exposit to Claudia.
Only that his personal life was his own business and that I should stay out of it.
Lisa, what did you expect him to say when he doesn't know how much you really care for him?
Glass number 2 goes as fast as the first, but Claudia keeps it coming, along with her solid guidance, even if Lisa remains resistant.
Claudia, I've tried to be honest about it. But I don't think it would really matter to him.
You don't know that.
Well, it's not a bad guess.
Maybe not, but it sure is a negative one.
Well, just chalk it up to the wine.
The situation isn't hopeless, Lisa. At least the man you love is still alive. Oh, I don't want to cause you any more pain, because I know you've had that experience too, but when Roy passed away, this became a very necessary crutch for me. Now nothing seems to be important anymore.
There is a difference, though.
Why?
You and Roy began hitting it off right from the very start.
If that's what you think, honey, forget it. We were at each other's throats all the time. We nearly drove each other crazy.
Oh?
Do you want to laugh? I'll tell you about him.
Let me tell you something. Right now, I'll take all the laughs I can get.
As Claudia and Lisa worked to lift each other's spirits, Rick was alone at his place, his own spirits feeling pretty low. He kept thinking about what Vanessa had said, telling him that Lisa was in love with him. He dismissed it outright, not believing it for a second. At least, at first. But it had bothered him all day. Lisa and Vanessa had worked together closely for years, and were sure to have talked in that time. And Vanessa would have no reason to lie to Rick. All in all, Rick felt stupid anyway, remorseful for being so hot-headed. That kind of temper gets pilots killed when they come in all cocky, reading a situation wrong. He certainly felt like he'd crashed and burned on this mission. It felt like it was already too late to pull up and recover. If only he had listened to whatever Lisa had to say. Back at Claudia's, we get the full story of how Claudia met Roy Fokker years before, and it's a story we've already visited for the most part in this video series, after Roy's untimely death. But when watching this show, this is a fun moment to witness this history and hear Roy's voice again. To watch as he tries to woo Claudia with many little gifts, see how much she played hard to get, being as repulsed by him as she was intrigued, and just knowing that Claudia and Roy had the same fits and starts, the same will they won't they as Rick and Lisa. Lisa finds all of this as comforting as she does entertaining, and can't hardly believe the roller coaster Roy and Claudia rode together, even about the parts Lisa was apparently there for. The thing is, what finally really got Claudia and Roy together into their deep and passionate romance was they both began to be honest with each other. They dropped whatever facades and pretenses they had and showed each other their true selves. And through that, they came together as one, showing us all what true love is really about. It's something they had to learn, at least Roy sure did. And I can't help but think that if he hadn't died before, if he'd been around at this time, he definitely would have been there to teach Rick all the lessons he himself had to learn the hard way. He almost certainly would have helped Rick see Lisa's true feelings, and most likely would have worked to guide the two of them together, much like Claudia had been trying to do. I mean, he certainly had Minmei's number figured out, even way back at the beginning.
So just cheer up and go on back to Minmei, kid. She's waiting for you. Oh, one thing. Girls like her can be sort of fickle sometimes, know what I mean?
And ultimately, there's nothing wrong with Minmei, and she actually is a wonderful person in many ways, but even Rick had questioned if they even really truly belong together, no matter their feelings for each other.
How do I tell her? I'm a pilot, and you're a big star now. You know it wouldn't have worked for us anyway.
Rick continued to mull all of this in his mind, his feelings for Minmei, his past experiences with Lisa. He even wondered what Roy would do in his position. He reconsidered things Max had pointed out to him before. And then, almost suddenly, as such things tend to do, Vanessa's words finally penetrated that thick head, and he realized it all added up. It really was true.
I don't think that was a very nice thing to do.
Why not?
It's very simple. Captain Hayes just happens to be in love with you. That's why not.
Lisa is in love with me. Of course. That explains the picture she gave me and everything. Lisa!
He wanted to see her right away. He had to see her. To apologize, to talk things over, to let her know he'd been such an idiot. He pounded on the door to her place, but realized pretty quick she wasn't home. Oh, where could she be? Rick didn't give up. He called the base, but they confirmed she'd gone home. Oh, great, where else could she be? All he knew was he had to find her.
Oh no, I've got to find her! Where is she?
Claudia was finishing her romantic tale of her and Roy, reiterating to Lisa the idea that they all only have so much time in this world, so much time together. And her one regret was that it took her and Roy so long to sort it out, giving them only a few years to enjoy together before... Well, that's why she continued to hammer at Lisa the need to be honest, to come forth with your feelings. Because nothing is worse than losing that time with the ones you love.
But even that night, I couldn't tell him.
I would never have thought Roy Fokker capable of such sensitivity.
It was quite a revelation for me at that time, although I am sure deep down inside I knew it all along. But look at all the happiness I lost with him, just because I wasn't able to return any of the confidence he had given to me. My biggest mistake was not saying what was in my heart. I just hope that you won't let the same thing happen to you, Lisa. Huh? Now who do you suppose that could be? Commander Grant. Yes, of course, Captain. She's right here. Well, of course you can come over. We'll be waiting for you.
You're kidding!
He called from across the street.
You're serious?
You bet I am. Now I want to have a drink with this fella, okay? So will you get out of here?
What'll I say?
What will you say? If you don't know that, then we've wasted this whole evening.
Anybody home in there?
Prince Charming's here. Coming! Go on now and take this with you. It's a great little icebreaker.
Hey, come on, it's pouring out here.
Don't keep him waiting, Lisa.
Good night.
It's adorable seeing how flush and nervous Lisa is, knowing Rick came to find her. It was the last thing she'd expected, as joyous as it was. But being all aflutter, not to mention a little tipsy, it was a big leap of faith to walk out that door, armed with the tea and Claudia's advice, and face the man that she loved. Fortunately, as they walked slowly together, he was at least as nervous as she was, and they didn't say much at first, their conversation being trivial and benign, but in a cute way. Lisa realizes how silly they're being, though, and finally her command training kicks in, and she lets Rick know they should sit down and have a nice and serious conversation about things. Rick is glad one of them finally broke the awkwardness and happily obliges.
Well, I guess now's as good a time as any. My place is right down here, but I don't have anything to offer you.
Don't worry, Rick. I've got just the thing right here.
Hey, you're a lifesaver, Lisa.
As she takes his arm, they continue their walk, enjoying the sound of the rain on the lamp-lighted streets, finally together, ready to begin a true romance with each other.
日差しを浴びて